This is Mr. Jarvis, night foreman at the leaf field plant.
Got a crew coming?
They're loading the truck. They'll be here in a few minutes. Is that the door you want to cut?
Yeah, can you do it?
Sure, it'll be a tough one. How thick is it?
3 inches.
That steel on top. Do you know what's underneath?
No?
Probably chrome, steel, and copper. That'll make it rough.
Well, can you do it?
I'm not sure. But we'll try anyway. Where do you want to cut?
Around the time lock. Mr. Foster here will show you.
Well, just above here.
How long will it take you?
I'd say at least 4 or 5 hours if it's a straightforward job. But if we run into trouble, I don't know.
Our best hope is still Dawson. Mr. Zeta, have you got Dawson?
No, but I know where he is.
Where?
He left the city at 4 o'clock. He's on his way to North Bay on a fishing trip. You're wasting your time, Foster. Dawson is the only man that can open that.
What's his full name?
Peter Dawson.
We'll get a description of his car and put out a radio dragnet. We'll block every road and stop every car. Somehow we'll get him back.
All right, men. Let's get some life into it. Okay, that's your cutting area. What size tip have you got there?
It's a number 6.
All right, come on, let's get going.
Right.
I'll tell you right now, Max, this is going to be a tough job. I wouldn't make any bets on it.
Mr. Foster, there's a reporter outside from the radio station. He wants to know if you'll give him a statement.
No. Tell him I can't. Tell him we're busy.
Just a minute, please. Whether we like it or not, this is going to get into the news. For the sake of the bank, I think we'd better make sure they get their story straight. I think you should see him, Foster, and tell him the truth.
All right, Miss Webb, we'll come out.
What's the verdict, Doctor? If we can get him out in the next few hours, he stands a very good chance.
How many hours? How many more?
Dr. Hewitson will be able to tell us more precisely. He should be here any minute now.
Are you making any progress?
It's too early to tell yet. We're still cutting through steel. The tough part will come when we hit the other metals.
Mr. Foster,
Yes?
this is the reporter from the radio station.
Mr. Foster, I understand this little boy, his name's Stephen Walker, isn't it?
Yes.
I understand he's been locked in that vault for several hours. How did he get in there in the first place?
Well, we were closing up at the time when they were...
Yeah?
We've just had a message over the cruiser ready from the provincials. They say they've been stopping all cars on Highway 400 and number 11. But there's still no sign of Dawson, and they're asking if we know whether he's stopping off anywhere or if he's going up by a different route.
He could be anywhere. He could have pulled off the road. He could be stopping overnight. Tell him we don't know, but to keep checking.
Right.
Who's Dawson?
He's our expert on vaults.
You mean he could open this thing?
Well, he'd know the fastest way to do it. Frankly, gentlemen, at the present time, we're just groping. Modern vault like this is virtually impregnable.
Has your man Dawson got a radio in his car?
Probably. Why?
Well, if he's listening to it, we can get to him. You make it an official police request, and we'll have it on every radio station in the province. And be on the air within minutes.
It's an official request as of now. Get on the phone. I'll give you the details while we're talking.
And now we have a number which, in my opinion, hasn't had the recognition it deserves. Let's see what you think of it. One moment, folks. Before we begin that record, I've just been handed an urgent bulletin. The Toronto police have asked all radio stations to interrupt their programs in an attempt to locate Mr. Peter Dawson, who's required urgently in Toronto. Mr. Dawson is believed to be driving to North Bay in a 1954 two-tone blue and white Bel Air sports coupe, Ontario registration 152K6. If Mr. Dawson receives this message, he's asked to turn around immediately and head for Toronto, switching on his headlights so that provincial police cruisers may identify him and provide him with an escort. You're asked to emphasize that this matter is very urgent.
What's wrong, Bill?
This door, it ain't all steel. There's some other metal behind here. Look at the heat that's building up, and it's puddling, too.
Yeah, I was afraid of that.
So what do we do, Mac?
Keep on going, that's what we do. Get your torchlight and get in there again.
Okay, but it ain't gonna work. I figure we should try some other way in.
What's the trouble? What's holding things up?
It's the metal in the door, Chief. You can cut through soft steel with a torch and you get no trouble. But put another metal behind it and things get rough. That's what's happening here.
You mean you can't go on?
We're not giving up. But I'll tell you one thing. The people who make these doors figure to stop people like us from cutting through them. And I reckon they know their business.
Inspector?
Yeah?
They've located Dawson. He's on his way.
Where is he?
The provincials picked him up here on number 11 highway, about 10 miles south of Huntsville. That was 10 minutes ago.
What's the news, Inspector?
It's not good. Dawson got a long way away from us. That's 20, 40, 60, 80, 100. 100 and another 20 to this end of the city. There'll be a lot of weekend traffic on that road. And even if they make good time, it'll be 3 to 4 hours at the earliest before he can get here.
Inspector, I've just been talking to my radio station. They've got a helicopter warming up at the island airport ready to go. They could pick up Dawson along the highway and bring him straight here.
They could land on the shopping plaza. We've had helicopters here before.
Get him in the air. Tell him to head for Aurelia, and then follow Highway 11 north. Tell him to look for 2 cars heading south with their headlights on. The first one will be a police cruiser.
Right. Let me in, please. I'm a doctor. I've been called for.
It's Dr. Hewitson. Come in, Claude.
Okay, Doc.
Boy still locked inside?
Yes, I've got the figures for you on the air capacity inside the vault.
What we need to know, Doctor, is how long the boy can live with the air he has available inside.
Is there no way at all of getting oxygen to him?
Well, if we could do that, we could open the vault.
What effect is all that having on the temperature inside?
Say, we may be roasting that boy alive.
There isn't much chance of that, sir. There's too much metal between us on the inside for a temperature change in there. All the heat's coming outwards. That's what's giving us our trouble.
That takes care of that question. Let's have a look at your figures, Charles.
Well, sit down, gentlemen.
Now, Claude, allowing for the equipment that's stored inside the vault, we figure there's 525 cubic feet of air.
Well, we'll be conservative and call it 500. How old is the boy?
He's 6, just 6.
Well, a child that age, completely at rest, could live around about 80 hours.
Then we've lots of time.
Oh, no, I'm afraid we haven't. You see, the air would be good for 80 hours if the child were continuously at rest, that is to say, in a deep sleep. But I think we have to assume that he's pretty excited and probably pretty tense.
Does that make much difference?
Oh, a very great difference. Under those circumstances, the amount of air breathed could increase between 10 and 20 times. That's our unknown quantity, of course.
He's been in there close on 4 hours now. Presumably, he'll be getting tired. He might even be asleep. Certainly, some of the initial excitement will have worn off.
That's true, of course. And I think the best thing we can do in a case like this is make an intelligent guess. It's a very unusual situation, but I would say in the circumstances, the increase in the breathing rate would average out about 10 times normal.
Which gives us how many hours?
Well, if we're fairly exact about the amount of air in there in the first place, 10 hours.
So we've got 6 hours more.
That's just an estimate. I could be wrong by a margin either way, but I think we ought to look upon those 6 hours as a maximum rather than a minimum.
Which means the sooner your man Dawson gets here, the better.
Doctor, what effect does the air inside the vault have on the boy as it becomes stale?
Well, what happens is this. The oxygen content will grow less and less all the time. Normally, the air we breathe has a 20% oxygen content. In this case, as the boy uses up the air in the vault, that oxygen content will decrease. In addition, 4% of the air he breathes will be given off as carbon dioxide.
So that when the oxygen gives out...
If you mean at what point will the child die, it's considerably before the oxygen has been expended. As I say, 20% oxygen is normal in the air. When that oxygen is reduced to 10%, there are signs of anoxemia. That is a lack of aeration in the blood. And when the oxygen level reaches 7.2%, death occurs.
It's not a nice thought, is it?
The man from the radio station is asking if he can speak to you, Mr. Foster.
Very well.